Some they call it functional alcoholism, but if you know anything about Ben, he's got vision with precision, microphones and a tinkle of derision. You're about to hear what beer can be. It's time for Barley and Me.
Welcome to Barley and Me. I'm your host, Ben Rice. We're back with another COVID-19 shutdown episode. Today we're going to be talking to literally no one. I'm going to let them say their piece. This is a very cool thing that happened in Sacramento last week and the weeks leading up to that. Oak Park Brewing in Oak Park. So they actually brewed a beer from People's Brewing in Osh Kosh, Wisconsin. I don't know if that sounds like anything to you just off the top, but actually People's Brewing was the first ever black-owned brewery in America. And so Oak Park paired up with the original owner's son, Theo Mack, Jr., to help brew that using the original recipe. Theo Mack, Jr. will give you the whole story of how, well, as much as he knows, the story of his father, how that brewery came to be, how that beer came about, and the history leading up to that point. And kind of guiding this interview is Rodg, the head brewer over at Oak Park Brewing. I got this with permission from them. These cans are available now in 6-packs, reasonably priced. And I was drinking this, kind of not really thinking about it. I'm like, it's a lager, I'm just going to drink it. And I was like, oh, I should probably remember that this is a beer that I'm drinking. And I was like, oh, this is like a really good lager. This is an incredibly good lager. It's like it's a little bit sweet, kind of like a creamy finish to it, like a cream ale, but not like creamy like there's milk in there or something. Anyway, I feel like this interview, I watched it on the way back from picking up the 6-pack. I was like, oh, this is like an incredibly good interview, so I'm really glad that Oak Park let me utilize that as I'm trying to find guests and new topics to take care of. We're still doing hoops and hops. We're still doing Leonard malting, but life comes at you pretty fast. So I've had a few postponements and things like that, which are totally reasonable and honestly a pretty expected thing in the podcast industry. Anyway, People's Beer, Oak Park Brewing, they're going to talk about it. Be sure to follow Barley Me across social media at Barley Me Pod. Check out those chugs for charity. Do your own chugs for charity. You can win free beer from my beer cellar. And if you do a Black is Beautiful beer, you can win a beer from my beer fridge. And you get 2 chances to win if you do it. Let's see. I don't think there's anything else really too exciting going on. So let's get into this interview.
So this is going to be a special edition of Chill Out and Have a Cold One. We got a very, very, very special guest in the house tonight. We're actually off-site right now. We're over at the Black Market Records office, the headquarters for the record label. Jeff's not going to be with us today. He's at the brewery taking care of the Endless Nest Triple IPA. But I want to take this time to introduce our guests. You guys, if you guys got questions for them, shoot them our way. We'll try to answer them to the best of our ability. I want you guys to put those waves up and welcome Mr. Theo Mack, Jr.
Hello, everyone. Pleasure being here.
So, just to give you guys a little bit of background on Mr. Mack, Jr., his dad is Theo Mack, Sr. He was the first black brewery owner in the United States. So he's taking time out to sit with us today. He's been in Sacramento for a few days working on a collaboration with us, the one that we couldn't talk about. Now we can talk about it. So if you guys have any questions, definitely chime in. This is going to be short. We got to do another interview at 4:30, so we'll probably be on here today for another 12 to 15 minutes. So if you got questions, let's get them in. So, Mr. Theo Mack, Jr., if you can give us a little history and a little account of your background and why you're here in Sacramento collaborating with Oak Park Brewing Company.
Okay. Well, I'm here because of the collaboration with Kevin Johnson, Oak Park. They contacted me and said that they know about my father. My father is the first black man to own a brewery in these United States of America. And he did deal with some systematic racism that shut the brewery down. But he was one that never one that never quit fighting. He fought all the way to the end, and even after that was ended, he kept on fighting. He was a civil rights leader also. He helped lead the March on Washington from Wisconsin. He was head of what they call CORE, the Congress of Racial Equality, and he also was a lieutenant of C.L. Franklin, who was indeed the father of Aretha Franklin. And he fought for justice, but he found out that, yes, we have the vote, but we still are powerless economically. And he says for us to get that other part of the puzzle, we must learn to step up in the economic field. And he said he wanted to see what corporate America had, not getting a job in corporate America, but get a piece of the pie of corporate America. And that was the motivation for People's Beer.
Cool. And with that being said, it's like you said your dad had trials and tribulations.
Yes.
Is there any story like off the top of the dome that you can share with us?
Oh, there's plenty. I've been saying all week. Plenty of stories off top of the dome. But reality is Pops always fought a good battle. That there was, if you know about the brewery industry at one time, and I don't know if it still happens today, it might with the big boys, it's called black bagging, where basically what they do with black bagging is that the big boys kind of squeeze out the small concerns by by taking all the space off the shelves so that there's nothing left. And they do that to strangle you until you die. And they basically did that with my father with the help of the U.S. government, because at one point, financing was coming actually from Africa, and the U.S. government canceled their visas so they couldn't even come over to the United States to finish what they started. My father went over to Africa afterwards and see if he can get one started there. Even though they did the documentation and all that, father just didn't think that the sources that he was dealing with was, I believe, stable enough for him to make the run for it. But he would fight all the way to the end. But he also was very fair about what he did. My brother actually told the story that he met a guy in California, I believe it was, that called him up and said, I used to be one of the ABC students. Well, in Osh Kosh, where this brewery was, they had a program called A Better Chance. And they would take inner city youth to Osh Kosh to get a better chance in life. And so my father went to the airport to get his kid, and he was expecting a black kid to come out, and none showed up. And Dad thought he missed the plane flight. And then a young white kid came up to him, looked like he was white, came up to him and said, you know what? Are you Mr. Mack? I'm in the ABC program. And my father just laughed and said, wow, God played a trick on me. I thought I was coming from an inner city black kid, but it's an inner city white kid. And that's cool. Pop still showed him love, showed him how to do things. And years later in California, my brother get his call. And this gentleman was said, I was in the ABC program. Your father really helped me out. And I wanted my son to meet the son of Ted Mack. Well, my brother said when he met him, it was a white guy, he thought, with his son. And he said, this is Ted Mack's son. And he said, I just wanted you to know that I'm now a district attorney in the state. So a young brother that was going through stuff, then my father helped take him to the next level. That was the kind of man he was. And it's called People's Beer. My father used to say, because Osh Kosh is mostly a white town, and at that time, and we were about the only black family. But my father used to say, People's is not a black beer or a white beer. It's our beer, meaning it's for everybody. And that's what his thoughts were. He believed that we can get it done together rather than all this negativity. And he used to call racism or bigotry, as he would call it. He said that's the big monster that the whites have created. He said because it does a few things. It blinds your eyes. He says then it makes you deaf in your ears so you can't hear. And then it locks up your mind so you can't think straight. And then what it does, it infuses you with this thing called hate. And then what those that catch it, they actually inject their children with the same kind of poison so it flows to the next generation. And if you see what's going on in America today, that's what's happening right now. The next generation has been infused with that same kind of hate. And that which my father was fighting against, we still have to fight against together as a people.
Yeah, we ain't getting nothing but knowledge right now. This is like from the he's controlling the narrative. So I found out about Ted Mack Sr. like years and years ago doing research on the internet, and I ended up revisiting that information, and a lot of it was scrubbed, and somebody else ended up buying peoplesbeer.com. So now there's a lack of information on the Mack estate and the legacy of People's Beer. And one of the things that we wanted to do when we reached out to the Mack estate, of course, we wanted to brew the beer, but we wanted to brew it to spec. So we got access through the estate where they shared the full recipe with us. And we canned it today. So if you guys are in Sacramento, you got to come down and get the People's Beer collaboration with Oak Park Brewing. And a question for Mr. Mack, real quick. As far as picking People's Brewery to purchase that brewery, what were some of the attributes that your dad looked at when purchasing this brewery to make him decide to go with that brewery?
Well, actually, what you may not know is that this is the second brewery that my father went for. He went for something much grander than People's. Actually, he was selected as a manager for Pabst Blue Ribbon. And he was selected because he was a civil rights icon, and they saw what he did in the community. And so they wanted, after Martin Luther King got killed, my father kind of told the people that, we were rioting worse than you see out there now. The violence you see out there now was less than the violence that you saw out there after they killed Martin Luther King. And my father said, you know what? Our anger is at those that are outside of our neighborhoods. But we are burning our stores in our communities. So when we wake up tomorrow, we're going to go to their stores in their communities and spend our money. How much sense does that make? And it seemed to simmer down. And the president of it was Pabst Blue Ribbon, is the one who selected my father to be the manager. And that kind of started the course to this other brewery, which was Blatz. Blatz was a divestiture because of the antitrust suit against them. My father was inside, so he knew exactly what was going on. And so what he did was get the information, all the information he could, and he ended up writing a proposal and got from a New York banker, got a $9 million commitment if they buy the brewery. So he went to go ahead and go for the brewery, and he put his bid in with everybody else. And of course, he had the highest bid. But if you know the bid prices, the highest bid wins. Well, they gave G. Heinemann an opportunity to up their bid to $10.8 million. And then my father said, well, if you did that, because my dad already knew the property was valued at, he said maybe $45 million. So he said, hey, let us do our due diligence and then we can up ours. And of course, they did not let him do that. So they just took that from him. That was a systemic racism that he fought back then, but that didn't stop him. he looked for another opportunity. He got a whole lot of junk sent his way. He knew the business, so he knew junk when he saw junk. But when he found somebody brought Peoples in Osh Kosh, Wisconsin, he thought it was a pretty solid facility from what he saw. But he's not an engineer. So then he talked to his friend, their friends now, at Pabst Blue Ribbon. And Mr. Hyman, what Mr. Wyndham did is said, well, Mac, what I'll do, I'll send my best engineers and my brewmaster to make sure everything's right. They went, checked it all out. And not only that, they tightened up some things that needed to be tightened up. And that's how my father started started People's Beer.
Cool. So, hey guys, you guys throw up those hearts, show some love for Mr. Mack Jr. If anybody has a question, definitely shoot it to me now. I think we're going to have time to maybe answer one or two of them. We got another interview at 4:30. So if you got any questions, send them through right now. And, show some love, man. Throw those hearts up. So, Mr. Mack Jr. is taking time out of his day and kicking it with us. And, you're going to be here until Saturday, right? Saturday afternoon, morning, or
Right.
All right, you guys come down to the brewery if you're in Sacramento. He might be around. You guys can pick his brain. We definitely are super stoked to brew this beer, and we're looking to push it globally. I think the story of People's Brewing and People's Beer under the ownership of Mr. Mack Sr., the story needs to be told. You have some things that you're working on you want to share with the people?
Yeah, actually, I wrote a book about my father, which will be coming out this year, and it's going to be called Man Unafraid, Reflections of My Father. And then also I'm going to be bringing out my father's memoirs, and he did, his is called The Country Boy, Memoirs of Theo Mack Sr. And my father started out in life picking cotton. And he was told what he could not do in that society down there. He told me of a time when he was plowing the cotton fields and a truck of white guys stopped and said, N-word, don't you have enough sense to know you don't walk behind a mule, but you ride a mule, insulting him. Then there was another incident that motivated him to greatness. Was they told him that, hey, he went into the store, and then there was a young man that worked for his father in the store that was the same age as my father. And the store owner said, you got to call my son sir from now on. But my father was like, he's the same age as I am. He said, sir, I'm not going to do that. And he said, oh, you one of them uppity N-words. He said, so you going to end up you going to end up drunk with a bottle in your hand, dead at 40 years old, like the rest of you ends. And my father, that hurt his heart. But when he brought the brewery, he told my mother the first place he wanted to go to. He said, I got to take a trip. And she said, where are you going? And she said, oh, I know where you're going. He went to that store, found that man, and said, remember when you said I wasn't going to be nothing? I wasn't going to amount to anything. I was going to end up drunk and in the gutter with a bottle in my hand like the rest of us. He said, well, no. I just brought a brewery and I don't drink. And he said, I got my college degree. I've been a leader in civil rights. He said, this is the one you said is going to be nothing. But I'm more than nothing. I made something out of Ted Mack. And he was expecting the man to say something so he can tear him down. But the man said, Ted, I apologize. You have done a great work. We heard about you here in Prattville, Alabama. You're going to have a good life. My father said, wow, man, I wasn't expecting that. I wanted to take you down, but now I just got to say, thank you, sir. And he went on and did what he had to do. That's just one of the stories of Ted Mack of many. And when you get the books, you'll be able to read about this. You'll be able to read about the systemic racism that this country did against them. And when people say there is no systemic racism, they're usually people who are not affected by it. So if they are not affected by it, don't believe them. It's a lie. Thank you.
You guys hear that? Hey, so we got 2 quick questions. If anybody has any other questions for me or want to hit us up on this Instagram page, or you can get at me at Blacks Brew Beer, BLKS Brew Beer. Let's communicate. One question: what was your dad's favorite style of beer?
People's beer. but he didn't drink. But I want to tell you this. He would say that People's is not a white beer. People's is not a black beer. People's is the people's beer because we're about you. And when he first brought the brewery, I'll tell you this. When he first brought the brewery, he lost 19 of his major buyers because they thought, it's going to be a black beer now. But my father said, when the going get tough, I send me. And he went to each one of those 19 buyers to convince them that this is going to be still the excellent beer that they're used to. And he got 18 of them back. My father fought a good fight.
Hey, with that being said, I got one more question, and I don't even want to, I'll ask the question, but somebody wanted to know what was your favorite Oak Park Brewing Company beer?
I didn't try it yet, but I like People's, okay? I like this one right here.
Yeah.
It's going to be my favorite, right?
Yeah.
And it's going to be worldwide, and it's going to finish a legacy. See, this is not something that's rebirth. This is really a new chapter, a continuation of a journey toward the promise. Because even Martin Luther King says, we shall get to the promised land. We can't be hindered by the things that say we can't do it, because we can do all things. All right?
Hey, so with that being said, we got to sign off. We got to get to this next interview. If anybody's in Sacramento, jump on 97.5 KDEE and check out the interview with Mr. J. King. So with that being said, like I said, if anybody has any questions, get at us. We'll get back with you guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thanks for showing love to Mr. Mack Jr. Yeah, man, it's hot. Hey, but he's dressed up. He's like, he doesn't sweat, he condensates. So you guys figure that out. But as he's a sharp dressed man with a powerful message, and I'm glad to be rocking with him. I know Becca, Jeff, KJ, our staff. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you for your time.
Hey, and thank you all for being here today and taking your time out to join us. Be
Cool.
blessed.
Peace out. Cheers.
Thanks so much for listening. Stay home safe.